There are people who claim to sense things before they happen. Call it intuition, clairvoyance, or just mere coincidence. These are premonitions that came true. Everyone is telling me, Halloween is over, get in the Christmas spirit. Fine. You happy? It's a Christmas tree, and it's black, like my soul. No, it's pretty, it's cute. I'll put some lights and ornaments and stuff on it later. But there it is. Christmas. Let's get into these stories. On the night of October 19th, 1966, 10-year-old Errol Mae Jones had a nightmare she couldn't shake. She told her mother that she had gone to school in her dream, but her school was gone. It was now completely buried under something black. Then little 10-year-old Errol Mae Jones tells her mother something very strange and maybe even a bit eerie. She then tells her mother that she wasn't afraid to die because that would mean she'd be with Peter and June. Peter and June were former classmates of Errol Mae Jones who had passed at a very young age. 2 days later, on October 21st, disaster struck the Welsh village of Aberfan. A massive coal waste pile collapsed into a landslide, burying homes and Pantglass Primary School. 144 lives were lost, and 116 of those were children. And among them was little Errol Mae Jones. Her dream, tragically, had come true. Even worse, the town had warned the National Coal Board for years. A petition from the school had been ignored and complaints dismissed. Human negligence had sealed the fate little Errol had somehow sensed. In 1979, a man named David Booth had the same nightmare for 10 nights in a row. In this nightmare, a plane would veer to the side, flip over, and then burst into flames. Terrified and kind of worried, like, okay, maybe there's something more to this nightmare after having it so consecutively or back to back, he actually contacted the FAA and American Airlines. They actually listened and didn't just go like, yeah, you're crazy, surprisingly, but there was really not much they can do because he didn't have further details like the flight number or the city or date. So they heard him out and were kind of understanding, like, yeah, we hear you, we understand why you're concerned, but what can we really do? And the night of May 24th would be the last night that David would have this nightmare. Because on the next day, May 25th, American Airlines Flight 191 crashed minutes after taking off from Chicago. All 272 people on board died. This was the deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history. David recognized the images immediately, and David was not the only one that had some sort of premonition about this aviation accident, because actress Lindsay Wagner, aka the Bionic Woman, was supposed to be on that same flight, but moments before she boarded, she started feeling really sick and really ill and overwhelmed with dread. So she, in fear that she would become even more ill while on the plane, she decides to just go home. And she claims that as soon as she left the airport, she immediately felt fine. And as we know, the plane never made it to its destination. In 1898, author Morgan Robertson wrote a novella called Futility. Now, in this novella, he described a massive ocean liner called the Titan, the largest ever built. In this novella, the Titan was considered unsinkable and it could travel over 20 knots. In the story, the Titan then strikes an iceberg in mid-April, and it does not have enough lifeboats, which results in thousands of lives lost. 14 years later, the Titanic sank in mid-April after striking an iceberg. And as we know, it did not have enough lifeboats, and 1,635 lives were sadly lost. The similarities are shocking, to say the least. Could author Morgan Robertson somehow have predicted a tragic future event? Maybe he was, what's that called, a prophet? Like where he writes something that comes true? I don't know, you be the judge. But that wasn't the only premonition linked, or aka premonition if you want to call it that or accept it as that, linked to the Titanic. Because when boarding the Titanic, a wealthy family by the last name of Cardesa had bought the most expensive suite on the Titanic. Well, they wanted to bring their maid Anne Ward along for the trip, but she refused to board the Titanic because she said she felt something terrible was going to happen. So Anne Ward decides not to board the ship, and well, we know the rest. Some call it intuition, others say that maybe she was just nervous to board the ship, but either way, she refused to board and survived. It was February of 1993 when Barrett Naylor was driving to work. Now, while he's driving, a sudden feeling of dread just hits him, and he decides that he's going to turn around and head home. So he makes a U-turn, and hours later, a bomb exploded at his workplace, killing 6 and injuring over 1,000. 8 years later, Barrett is driving on his way to work yet again when that very familiar feeling just hit him like a wave once again. And once again, Barrett decides he's going to listen to this feeling, and he turns around and heads home. Now that day happened to be September 11th, 2001, and Barrett's workplace was inside the World Trade Center. Barrett lived to tell this story, but he couldn't help but feel an overwhelming guilt for not doing more or warning people or, doing something to have somehow helped. But then again, he also asks himself, like, would anyone have really believed me if I just said, hey, everyone, I just have this feeling? Who knows? In 1838, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a novel where 4 shipwrecked sailors kill and eat the youngest crewman named Richard Parker. Remember that name, Richard Parker. 45 years later, a real yacht called the Mignonet, I think, well, it sank. And the starving survivors, who were also 4, killed and ate the youngest crewman, whose name was, can you guess? Richard Parker. Both stories involved 4 men, a wreck, a tortoise that I guess they had eaten first in an attempt to survive, but it wasn't enough, and then, well, cannibalism. And the rest of the crewmen are rescued after the act, or, eating, Were these similarities a coincidence? Y'all gotta be honest with me right now. Would you guys eat your fellow crewman to survive? Tell me the truth. The night before his 1947 fight with Jimmy Doyle, Sugar Ray Robinson had a nightmare so intense he woke up screaming for Doyle to get up. Sugar Ray Robinson described this dream as feeling so real that when he woke up, he tried to cancel the fight. He's like, I want out. I don't want to fight him because I had this dream. I dreamed that I knocked him out and he never got back up, and that I basically unalived him. So I don't want to move forward with the fight. But, the people around him, I assume, or, everyone's trying to kind of convince him to move forward with the fight, and Sugar Ray Robinson was saying no, I don't want to fight him. And I'm not sure if he was a religious man or for what reason, but a priest ends up getting called in to speak to Sugar Ray Robinson, and the priest is just kind of trying to reassure him that, hey, you know, it was only a dream. So they end up convincing Sugar Ray Robinson to move forward with this fight. So Sugar Ray Robinson goes on with the fight, and in the 8th round he landed a left hook. Jimmy Doyle then fell, and Jimmy Doyle never got back up. It turns out Sugar Ray Robinson's dream had shown him and revealed to him how everything would eventually play out. On September 23rd in 1955, actor Alec Guinness, better known today as Obi-Wan Kenobi, met James Dean outside an Italian restaurant in Hollywood. Now, Dean excitedly showed Alec Guinness his new car, a silver Porsche 550 Spider he called Little Bastard. Now, the moment Alec Guinness sees this Porsche, this car, he said he felt this something very strange just kind of take over him, and this overwhelming feeling of dread. And he said that it's as if something took over him, and without thinking, these words come out of his mouth in a voice that almost doesn't even sound like his own. And he tells Dean, please do not get into that car, because if you do, by 10 o'clock next Thursday night, you'll be dead. Dean and Alec then just kind of brushed this strange comment off and went on to eat inside this restaurant. But exactly 1 week later, almost to the minute, James Dean was killed in that very car after a near head-on collision. Alec Guinness's warning became one of the most chilling premonitions in Hollywood history. I made a video going deeper into the curse of Little Bastard as more strange things occurred after this. If you're interested in seeing that, I'll put the link to that video in the description down below. And that about wraps up the stories I have for you tonight. Thank you for joining me. Let me know if you've ever had a dream or a gut feeling that came true or that turned out to mean something, or maybe someone you know. And what do you guys think this is? Is it intuition, clairvoyance, or mere coincidence, or something just beyond understanding? And if you ever felt something like this, or something like this happened to you, would you listen? If you enjoy eerie true stories and the unexplained and paranormal, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there are many more mysteries waiting in the shadows. Wait, I'm feeling a vision coming on. I'm feeling something. Gotta put my witch hat on for this. Hold on. Busting out my tarot cards, because I have a premonition for you. My premonition is that you will subscribe. Corny? Okay. Cringe, as the kids say. My daughter says everything I do is cringe, but I'm her mother. It's my job to be cringe. Thank you very much. Adios. I didn't foresee that coming, I'll tell you that much.